ahead and restart the stream from here. Welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Take 2. So we have a great gang of folks on the stream, and I want to thank you all for showing up here, including John Yancey and Angelo Mealy. Sundar, good to see you, Sundar. Davey's here. Davey Larson. Michael Lotinero, good morning to you, my friend. Hey, Paul. Good to see you, Paul. Always first on my videos, Paul Newman. Craig Butterick is here from Australia. It's 2 a.m. My son just got back from New Zealand and Fiji, and it was spring. He's showing me pictures of autumn colors down there, so I thought that was kind of cool. Welcome to my wonderful moderators, and that includes, of course, Cichlid Kings and Salient Aquatics, and I'm sure we'll get GP will be on here in a minute, and I think Denny will be jumping on, and a few other folks, and somebody just threw a super chat at me. Must be that damn money for the mic account. Thank you so much for that. Well, you know, I was messing around with you search on YouTube for information on how to get the best audio, and I also got some input from Video for Geeks, one of the folks that drops in sometimes, and very often what's out there is folks who are gamers, and the gaming audio settings might be a little bit different, I suspect, than the audio settings that you would want for a live stream like this. So because I think in the gaming world, you not only have your audio, but the audio of other folks who are playing and things of this nature. And so the settings were obviously tweaked in the wrong direction. But I'm going to go ahead and do a complete revamp of this. And of course, I am looking at getting another microphone and a new boom that'll be a little bit more sturdy for the microphone. Kat Saylor, welcome back. Kat was here about 2 hours ago, and welcome to the stream. If you come too early, your comment does disappear. I don't know why, but it doesn't stay on. Z-Zip in the house. R. Baglio. Price tag, which for some reason made Salient Aquatics want to run. I don't know why. Maybe he's afraid you're going to charge him. Hey, Edgar. Edgar in the house. Andy's in the house. And let's see here. All right, great group of folks here. Jerry Moore. Hey, good morning. All right, now if anything slips at all on video or audio, please let me know. I do not want you to have to listen to anything that is subpar. So, hey, Jerry, good to see you, buddy. Check out Jerry's Fish Room and GP in the house. Very, very cool. Best moderators on YouTube. I always say that. Andrew Mays in the house. Good morning to you as well. So we have a topic today that is interesting and inspired, as suggested by Salient Aquatics, by a comment that he made, and also by a direction that is being taken by KG Tropicals, where he made a video talking about how he felt like he had sort of talked about everything, and he had lost a little bit of that spark, and so he was switching to a daily vlog, which I think is cool, especially when you're going to go off into something like Aquashella or something like that. I mean, a daily vlog can be very, very interesting. Me personally, as I responded to Salient Aquatics, though I do have moments, and probably they're more related to a lack of sleep, but I do have moments where I feel a little bit like, all right, I gotta get this done today, and it feels a little bit more like a task or work than fun. But for the most part, I still feel the same spark and bounce and excitement to interact with you as I did, 7 years ago or more when I started the channel. I still feel a lot of joy in being able to share with you my experiences in fish keeping and what I'm learning along the way, and just as importantly, what I'm learning from you along the way, and then I put into practice, and then I watch the results and then share those with you. So all that has sort of helped me to keep my edge. But it is a reality that there are a lot of folks out there who do hit a point that they just they don't look at their aquarium as much as they used to. They don't feel that excitement like they used to, like when they go to a fish store or when they're looking at their fish. They don't have that sort of childish joy, which is something very good, I think, when an adult feels a childish joy, that sort of, that Christmas Eve, that morning before your birthday, that excitement. You should have that sort of tingle or joy when you look at your tank, or when you go into a very nice fish store that has fish you've never seen before. There should be that excitement there. But for a lot of folks, that tends to tarnish, and there's a variety of reasons for it. Now, compound that with being a YouTube creator. So not only do you have a person that starts to get a tarnish in the hobby itself, but then they start to feel obligated to get content out, and when they don't really want to, or don't have a topic, or don't feel like they have anything that they want to talk about, or like John alluded to, we've talked about everything, we've covered everything 20 different ways. So usually what I find in talking with folks, you can imagine over the years how many comments and questions I've had regarding this topic, and how many times I've heard people talk about how they're thinking about taking a new direction, or taking a break from the hobby, leaving the hobby, or maybe they just got back to the hobby, and then they tell me why they were away from it for several years. And so some of the common things that I find, something happened that was catastrophic, right? They had a massive die-off. So when somebody has a die-off like that, that really kind of takes the bounce out of the step. And let me adjust the lighting on this tank. Why don't you folks enjoy this 300 gallon for just a second? There we go. So, so what happens? Well, maybe it was equipment failure. They were away. They didn't check on their aquarium for a weekend. A pump failed. The fish were oxygen starved, and you had a massive die off. Maybe there was a disease. They didn't quarantine long enough. They put fish directly in from a fish store, and they brought in some colomaris, and they lost all their fish. Or you hear about these kind of things, and they're real. They happen. And for some people, they get back on the horse. I certainly have had to get back on the horse numerous times. And to some degree, I live in a glass house. I've shared those moments with you. So you've seen me go through these times where some fish keepers would have said, forget it. It's too embarrassing. It's too upsetting. But some folks don't get back on the horse. Some folks that tank goes on Craigslist, or it goes in the garage, and that's it. They're done. They scrub things up and they're finished. So usually fish loss, some type of catastrophic tank failure, an equipment failure of some kind, and they're done. Unfortunately, and I talked about this in that video, Just Stop. I talked about sometimes folks react to trolls. They decide to maybe they decide to do a tank that is unconventional. A person tries to mix lakes, right? They have Tanganyika, Victoria, Malawi fish in the same tank. They have they're trying maybe they have a fish that is going to outgrow a tank. They have an Oscar in a 20-gallon, and they plan on buying a bigger tank, but the they're attacked so savagely that and their skin isn't really thick enough to be on out in the public domain, and they cave in. They go, oh, forget it. It's not. So they either disappear from YouTube, and we have lost some good YouTubers over the years who just disappeared. They just said, forget it. I don't want to deal with the trolls, or they just quit the hobby. So there's lots of and there you go. Angelo just chimed in with Sandy. Sandy wiped. I mean, when Sandy hit, there were. I mean, taking care of your fish was important, but saving your life and your family was. I mean, that's where the priority went immediately. And so, things like that. I mean, you go, okay, I'm sacrificing my tanks. I've got to get out of here. We're going to get flooded. We're going to get blown away. And so this kind of stuff happens. Jeremy had a massive die-off. I mean, you folks are sharing here the kind of stuff, the setbacks that you've had. And Luke's Aquatics lost discus. That's heartbreaking, and it's also very expensive. And then you look back on it and go, okay, it happened because of bullying. Did I anticipate this? Could I have done something? You start beating yourself up, second guessing yourself. And so it's a little bit of a, it does require an ability to push through where a lot of folks would simply go, forget it. I don't need the stress. Now, I'm talking about both fish keeping and also being a YouTube creator. YouTube, there have been videos that I've spent 12 hours on. Editing, re-editing, upload, didn't like it, download, delete, redo, 12 hours. Gets 1,000 views. Yeah. Sounds like a lot. It's not that much in the YouTube world, right? At least certainly not enough to make any kind of revenue or get any kind of reward, right? Even though it might have been very satisfying for me to upload the video, get another video. You use your phone. You don't even use your real camera. You walk around with your phone, you make a few comments, and you say a few things. You post it, 10,000 views. So no rhyme or reason. No rhyme or reason. Now add to that with YouTube, and my wife and I were talking about it this morning, you could have a month where your views were 20% higher and your revenue is 20% lower. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to. So my wife goes, I don't get it. You had more views last month and you got less money. You go, I don't know. Now, trolls can also be an issue for YouTubers. You know that. And very often YouTubers will go on a rant. I try to avoid rants. Over the years, I can probably count the rants I've had on one hand. And but sometimes people let off steam that way, but there are definitely trolls out there. The biggest problem, I think, with YouTube creators is they get into a creative block. What am I going to talk about? What's going to be the topic? And, what haven't I talked about already? Now, for me, it doesn't matter that I've talked about a topic before, because from the last time I talked to you about fish food, and now I've changed. The last time I talked to you about setting up a brand new aquarium, and now I've changed. Well, last time I talked to you about filter media, and now so every time I talk about a topic that I may have talked about 25 times already, there's a new twist on it because I'm constantly evolving. So I don't allow myself to get into the idea that I've talked about everything already, because I sincerely believe that every time I talk about it, I'm going to bring a different twist to it. Plus, every time I talk about it, there's a very strong chance that a person that's never watched that prior video or is brand new is watching that video for the first time or coming to my channel for the first time. So one of the themes or personal sort of code that I have as a YouTuber is that it's always new to the viewer. It's always new to the new viewer, even though it might be an old theme to me. It's still new to you. And so I have to keep, I keep enthusiastic. It's almost like I meet somebody and they tell me, hey, what excites you about fish keeping? Why are you a fish keeper? Why are you a YouTuber? And they're brand new and they want to know about it because they're actually thinking about getting into the hobby. How would I talk to that person? And that's sort of my stable viewpoint in producing content. How do I explain this to a person that is relatively new, and how can I help to instill some excitement? And as opposed to, well, geez, not that again, not that question. What would be the best peacocks for a 55-gallon? Oh no, not that question again. Hey, you know what? I'm excited about that question because I imagine myself, okay, if I was putting together that tank, what would I do? Okay, a flavescent, a bicolor, a sunshine, a German red, a ruby red, I get pumped up about like, okay, yeah, what I imagine myself like setting that up. And so how many fish can go into I don't know. You get some questions that get asked. Now, what are some of the other factors? And Robert Egan, it's funny you say a haircut, Robert. The other day I was thinking, I watched an old video of myself from many years ago, and I had hair that was like down to my shoulders. Maybe I'll just let my hair grow out and just go back to like 1975 and a haircut. Now, I don't know where you go, Robert, but I haven't seen a haircut for $9.99 in about 15 years. So, all right. So at any rate, now one of the things are factors. One thing I'm experiencing this week, and the reason I didn't get another video out this week, is I had to cover for my wife. We share mornings on watching my granddaughter, and so you have these pulls from life, and if the pulls are strong enough and are of a high enough priority, what can happen is you can find yourself neglecting your fish or your tank, maybe neglecting your channel a little bit because you have something that is higher on the priority list. And then that can cascade, that can snowball. You neglected your channel, you neglected your fish, you didn't get the number of views that month. Your tanks are a little cloudy, a little dirty. Maybe the fish aren't quite optimum because they've been neglected a bit. The water quality isn't what it could be. And this could then tumble into, a drop in viewership, a drop in subscribers, a drop in, illness in the tanks and some die off, right? And so these things kind of feed on each other. And this is why you really have to, and for me, Robert, $30 in Houston. Yeah. See, what you gave me, Robert, was tip money. A tip for the hair cutter, right? Now, what do you folks think about, off topic a little bit, these places that you go to and they turn the screen around and they sort of guilt you into giving a tip? Do you give a tip? I mean, you just went to the counter and bought something for $1, $5, and then they turn it around 15, 20, 25. All right. So have you folks been to that edge? And some of you already commented about it, but have some of you been to that edge where you've thought, I might be leaving. I might be done with this. What prompted that? What brought that out in you? Was it, like at one point in my life, I had no tanks. My job required me to be on the road for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. I couldn't keep tanks. So I was out. I was out of the hobby. That's very different from having a massive die off, very different from having a tank fail and crack. Think different reasons, but have you had that happen? And if it's happened, tell me about it in the comments. I'd like to hear about it. Now, just as importantly, I want you to tell me in the chat, how do you keep your edge? How do you stay excited? And then I'm going to tell you what helps me to stay excited. Apart from what I've told you already, always speaking to individuals as if they were brand new and had that excitement in their eyes and wanted to hear why they should pursue the hobby. That's who I feel my audience is. But also, there's a couple rules, a couple guidelines, and one of them is don't take on too much, right? Don't take on too much, because and you'll get to that point in the number of tanks that you have where it starts to slide over into labor, arduous labor, work, and you stop liking it. And if that's happening, you got to cut back to the type of tanks, to the number of tanks, and the amount of time requirement that was better suited for you. So I try and keep that under control. I'm kind of where I'd like to be right now. Maybe convert the 90 into a discus tank. But I'm kind of where the amount of time I can dedicate to my tanks is about where I want it to be. I'm kind of at a sweet spot. And if I expanded beyond this, I think it could get into a point where it starts to become arduous or too much when you figure in having to also do content creation. Keep in mind, if you're doing a video about water changes, while you're doing water changes, your half-hour water change is now a 4-hour water change. Between lighting, camera setup, and then post-video editing, your water change is now 3 to 4 hours. So what is it that knocked you backwards? And what is it that helps you to stay excited about the hobby? These are things I want to know about. And and it's something we can all learn from and all take from. So definitely adjusting the labor involved to fit the life that you're living, I think is very, very important, especially for those of you who are starting to build a family, or in my case, the adding of a grandchild. That these are circumstances that, or a job change that requires you to spend more hours at the office. I mean, there's different things that you have to be. It's a fluid situation. So you have to do the balancing act. And if you start to feel like, I don't want to do that today, I'm not in the mood for that today, you start finding 100 other things you'd rather do. You need to step back and go, 1, why did I get into this to begin with? I've got to rekindle that joy and that excitement. And 2, where did it stop being fun? What happened? What happened? Let me tell you, for me, I have the most fun when I'm talking with you about things that I feel are important to me and I want to talk with you about. If I put out a video, if I look at the analytics, videos about servicing my canister filter always get a lot of views. All right, let me do a video on canister filters. That to me is very uninspiring and a little bit boring. I'm much more excited when you inspire me with an idea, or another YouTuber inspires me with an idea, and it's something I feel really like I want to talk about, and then I get that message out. So let's see what you have to say. And I'm assuming, because no one has said anything, I'm assuming that audio and video are both good. So we're gonna pursue with that being the understanding. But let's see here. Very quick and sort of deep in the show here, a quick shout out to James at the Cichlid Shack. Every cichlid you see here is here, buddy. You get an idea of the size of these beasts. Every cichlid you see here is from the shack, and if he's in the middle of consolidating his location, he's got a little bit of a move situation going on, but he is still taking orders, and 15% off. Use Shack Attack 15 for orders over 100. Does not apply to shipping. 10% off for dry goods like food. He does sell Extreme, Ice Energetics, things like that. And he sells New Life Spectrum. 10% off on any dry goods with Shack Attack 10. And if you use Southwest Cargo for the delivery of your fish, be sure that Southwest delivers to your local airport. So a big shout out to the Cichlid Shack. And also a big shout out to the Aquarium Co-op, who has been helping me a lot recently with things, especially with the 55-gallon planted tank project that has been almost entirely with the help of the Aquarium Co-op. Did I say Cichlid Shack by mistake? The Aquarium Co-op has been the big help on that. So let's take a look here at one more thing. And that is a big shout out to my moderators and also to members of the Garage Gang. Garage Gang is a way that you can help the channel on a monthly basis. Starts for as little as $3 a month. The details are in the description under the video. There's also a video that talks about the Patreon program. I'll go ahead and put a link at the top of the of this video when it reposts to YouTube. But a big shout out to these monthly supporters, members of the Garage Gang, Patreon monthly supporters. You folks are helping me more than you know. And of course, to subscribers and super chatters, thank you, everybody. So enough of that. Let's get on with the topic. Let's take a look at, I'm going to look at the chat here. You're not going to be able to see it, but I can. And I'm going to pull out some, let's see here. I'm going to scroll back in the chat and see some of your comments, and let's talk about this. Susanna SC, my friend, learns watching me doing maintenance, and she makes me be more serious about it. Interesting, huh? Interesting how that works when you go into the role of teacher, and you really start, you're a little more on, you make sure you're not being a little sloppy, you don't cut corners, and now imagine having 50,000 subscribers and oh, and some of them waiting for you to make a mistake so they can go, hey, wait a minute. In your last video, you did it different. All right, let's see here. CC Custom Leatherworks in-house and Waynard Woolmerans. Waynard Woolmerans, make sure that you are that your notification bell is set. For some reason, the YouTube will go in and arbitrarily remove notifications or unsubscribe. I don't know why. And I've heard this from various YouTubers. Hey, my subscriber count was adjusted. I don't know why. And people will write to me and go, Ben, I was subscribed to you and I didn't get anything for weeks. And then I found out for some reason I was unsubscribed. So always check and make sure your subscription and the bell remains on. Eric Isaacson in the house. All right, let me look at your comments here. Crystal C. And this is an important comment, Crystal, more than you know. and the reason Crystal C's comment is important is this. If somebody was brand new to my channel, I would say, look, watch all the videos you want. But if you want to get the benefit, the greatest benefit out of the experience and the setbacks and the losses and the wins and everything else, watch the latest video on that topic. And that will give you the best culmination, the best summary of where I'm at. Now, go back 5 or 6 years and you'll see videos on Biohome Ultimate, on Marine Pure, and I love these products. I still love them. I think they're great products. Get that straight. Fast forward, and you'll hear me talk about how I sincerely feel that a 20 PPI sponge can do the job for a lot less money, will probably last longer. And if you're on a budget, use sponges as your media. Pull them out, rinse them in tank water. If your tank is under 9 months old, rinse them in tank water. If you have a very little substrate, rinse them in tank water. If you have a very deep substrate and your tank's 9 months to a year old or older, you can rinse your sponges in tap water. It's not going to matter. You have a stable, mature enough tank where it's not going to matter. But yeah, Crystal, watch the more recent videos to get the latest skinny on what I've learned and where I'm at. Doesn't mean that the older videos don't have valuable content. And sometimes I'll go back and look at something I talked about a while back and go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot about that sort of angle on it. And so sometimes it's interesting to revisit that. Michael Smith, lost my house. Wow. And Crystal C also made another comment, which I'm not picking on you, Crystal C, but the this idea of freaking out, and if you go back to probably my most popular video of all time, I think it's called 10 Tips. We spend too much time looking for what's wrong. We spend too much time worried, We spend too much time comparing our tank to the tank of somebody who has a massive budget and has 10 sponsors and can't figure out why our tank doesn't look that way. And so as opposed to just, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy my situation and stop chasing this or chasing that or looking for something wrong. Like, oh my goodness, what's that little spot, Oh, wait a minute, that fin looks a little frayed. Oh my goodness, it's like we can drive ourselves insane, and then it stops being fun. It starts being a source of anxiety, right? So, man, that's very important. So let's see here. Select pet, 40 plus tanks and working 15 hours a day makes it easy to get burned out, but fish clubs and conventions rejuvenate me. Now that's interesting. So you go around people who are excited and that's contagious. And boy, isn't that like a life lesson? You hang around with people that are doom and gloom and always negative and always harping about something. And after a while, you start to feel a little pissed off about life, and you start harping about stuff, and you're bitter. And man, that stuff, it's like a virus, right? Go to a club where people are excited. You go to an aquashella and people are walking around and they're pumped and they're buying stuff, and yeah, contagious. I'll tell you what I'm going to be doing. I have a talk coming up for the I've talked about this, East Tennessee, in Knoxville, East Tennessee Aquarium or Aquatic Society, and then I'm talking also at the Music City here in Nashville, Music City Aquarium Society. So I'm going to try some live speaking and see how that goes, and that should be fun. That's going to add another angle, another edge to another level of excitement, and at the same time allow me to interact with folks as much as I love interacting with you on the chat. Allow me to interact with folks live and watch their faces as I cover certain topics. And having given live talks before, that kind of feedback is so valuable. And if you're in East or Middle Tennessee and want some information about this July, or rather June and September talk that I'm giving, go ahead and hit me up on Gmail, ben.o.cichlid, ben.o.cichlid at Gmail, and I'll send you out the information on the talk. I'm going to try and record some of it if I can. Price tag says, I think number one tip is keeping mental health in check. Know where your time limits are. That's so important, and sweet spots. And I felt myself right at that little edge of the precipice. You're kind of like, man, I've been all in here all day. I don't feel like I've gotten anywhere. And you realize, okay, wait, I got to dial it back. Now, another thing, admittedly, and this might not be for everybody, because this is the opposite of dial it back, diversify. And for me, diversification has been a lot of fun for me. Getting into live bearers, getting into egg layers, getting into a planted tank, keeping a couple betta, South and Central Americans. For those of you who've been around for a long time, you know that none of that was part of my channel not that long ago. It was, hi, this is Ben Ochart with the 60-gallon African cyclone tank. That was it. That was my channel. And I found a lot of topics to talk about, but still, it was along that one little avenue that I was on. And now, yesterday I went with my granddaughter and I bought, every bit of Sprite that the local fish store had, threw it into the planted tank. I'm watching the fry hiding in the Sprite in the live bear tank. I'm cutting up zucchini. I'm about to move the red-tailed rasboras and the neons over to the planted tank. It adds up an element of fun and enjoyment that wasn't there before. It's also given me more things to talk with you about. And I know that some of you, the people that have been coming to my channel for years because they're African cichlid purists, maybe they haven't appreciated that. Maybe they've even unsubscribed because in their eyes, I've lost my way, But it's added some fun that was not there. That I didn't even anticipate. If you'd asked me 6-7 years ago, Ben, will you ever get live bearers, some platies and mollies? And I would have said guppies. I said, no, not for me. I want big fish. Are you going to get betta? Oh, no. Betta's not for me. I'm not a betta keeper, right? I had this sort of viewpoint on it, and I've changed. Cat Sailor. Cat Sailor says, the edge usually occurs when I'm under pressure from external sources. Work. Yep. And as corny as it sounds, the Ochart live streams bring me back to sanity with the kids. Well, I am very happy to hear that, Cat Sailor. One of the best comments, one of the things that excite me the most and that also keep me going are comments like that, or people telling me how I left the hobby and I've come back after watching some of your videos, or I used your video and I was able to get my canister to work right, or I finally got the cichlid tank I've always wanted because of some of your. I love getting that kind of feedback, and it's right up there with like getting a lot of views. That's good and awesome, and I love it. You'd be lying if I said I didn't like it. But to get feedback where I've made an impact on a fish keeper's life, that to me is awesome. And thank you for that, Cat Sailor. Very appreciated. Davey Larson, keep it simple. Yes, Davey, keep it simple. And, that goes in line with my, I have that new, what is it? Here, I'll show it to you. If I can find it. Here it is. This is the Teespring logo. This is that new t-shirt. One success, mess less. Well, come to find out that if you mess less, you'll get a more established, just a more stable tank. And that also aligns with not having to spend so much time working and instead spend more time sitting and enjoying your tank. So it's a very sage it's a very sage piece of advice. Want success, mess less, and I put it right up there with it's a fluid situation. And always be learning, right? Those are right up there. So yeah, okay. Let's take a look here. I'm looking at your comments. Hey, Video for Geeks, thank you so much for your email. I really appreciated that. And I am working and messing with audio. If you missed the first 5 minutes, I'm glad you missed the first 5 minutes. Oh, let's see. Jeremy Moore, I like to add fish to different tanks, move them around like I did for my Buenos Aires tetras in my 90-gallon. And I think, Jeremy, wasn't it you? Yeah, I think it was you, wasn't it? That actually made the suggestion. I was this close to sending the Buenos Aires tetras over to the aquatic critter for a store credit. And I think it might have been you, Jeremy, that suggested. And I said, you know what? Why not? Let's just try them in the 90. Worst case scenario, I've got to remove a Buenos Aires tetra from the mouth of a Geo. I was watching him really close, and there was the usual curiosity. Everybody converged on the Buenos Aires tetras. The fact that I put 6 in at once, I think, helped, and the fact that I had fed them. But then they lost interest, and now the Buenos Aires are swimming around in a little, like a little sardine ball, right? Like the way they school in the ocean. And it's very cool. Very, very cool. So I'm glad I kept them. And yeah, sometimes moving fish around, like I'm going to move those red-tailed rasboras and the neons. Now I'm going to watch how those red-tailed rasboras do in the 55. And I'm going to see how fast these new neons hook up with the 10 neons that are in the tank. And let's see if that pulls them out from under the crypt plants and gets them swimming around a little bit. Or are they going to stay under the crypts, right? Let's see. Let's see. It's an experiment, and it certainly has my interest. GP has good advice. GP has a source of has been a source of good advice for me in several ways, both technically, computer-wise. Also, he's a computer guru, and also with regards to he helped me clean my socks, and I mean the filter socks, not the socks I wear. But with he gave me some advice on that, and yeah. And here's more sage advice: auto water changes, and yeah, there are ways to automate and to simplify and streamline, and also keep a log, and one of the best logs I think you can keep is nitrate levels prior to water changes. And you notice that your nitrate levels are still at around 20 right before your last scheduled water change. Well, maybe I could have gone a little longer. So maybe you can go 2 weeks instead of weekly. And now you just saved yourself about an hour a week. These tanks can go 2 weeks. I do a water top off in the sump and a sock swap out in the sump every other week, right? And then I water change every other week. This one and the 210 behind me. The 90, the rest of them, I'll usually do a water change every week. The smaller, the betta tank, I can go 2 weeks, sometimes 3. It's a very simple tank. It's got 3 or 4 fish in it. It's got lots of filtration, those 2 Shisei nano filters in it. So at any rate, yeah, keeping a log of your test results along with a maintenance log can really help you to start to dial in. I did the same thing with canisters. I do the same thing with my sumps. Open them up, take a look, write it down, what you found. And then all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, with my current feeding and bioload, I can go 9 months between canister cleanings. I can go almost a year between sump cleanings. So, and by cleanings, I don't mean change the socks. I mean like tearing apart a sump, pulling my sponges out, rinsing them, putting them back in, blah, 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 right? Servicing the pump, cleaning the, the impellers on the pumps, that kind of thing. All right. I am looking at your comments again. Peas and haps, being honest. Peas and haps. I think throughout the year, we just hit a lazy spell, whether it's the season changing to summer or what. Yeah. I think so. That can happen. So how do you snap out of it? Do you wait for a tank to get cloudy? Do you pull yourself up from the bootstraps? You go, okay, that's it. I can't put it off any longer. But yeah, sometimes people just go, I'm going to chill. There've been days where I stayed up late editing some videos. For some reason, I edit between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. I sleep in. The next day I'm dragging because I didn't get enough sleep. And I wanted to film, but I just don't film. I just go, no, I'm just going to chill. I'm going to hang out. Okay, Waynard. Waynard says, Waynard Wolmerans, given up a while, gave up. Now I got finally my Tanganykan Shelleys. I got the Spark Simple. My water is well water. So now I'm focusing on what my water can do. Looking at fish. Okay, yeah. So Waynard's back, and I've heard Tanganikans can be a lot of fun, and Shelleys. I mean, we have Denny's Aquatics, right? And Dennis Rudell, he loves his Shelleys. He sits in front of his tank and he watches them redecorate and move the shells around, and he says it's the funnest tank he has. So I get it. Jeremy Moore bought a pump to help me with water changes. Let me tell you that anything you can do to get off of Bucket Brigade. When I was working, I used to go to work on Monday with a sore back because I do water changes on the weekend. Every Monday I'd have a sore back from just being on Bucket Brigade. And so going with a Python, in my case, a Python, anything that'll get you off Bucket Brigade, that'll do it. Luke's Aquatics. I love this comment. 2 kids that love the hobby. So for me, it gets us to spend time together. That to me is awesome. Now, see, I'm evolving that way with my granddaughter. She loves coming down here. Whenever she comes over, she points at the door to the fish room. Fishies, fishies, fishies. She'll point. If I'm wearing one of these T-shirts, she'll start like pointing to the fish, and I take her to the local fish store. And so that, even though it's not doing work on my tanks or creating video content, it creates excitement and joy for me as a fish keeper to watch that happen. Freaky Fish Lady. Downsized from 24 tanks to 14. 24 is a lot of tanks. After my surgeries and the death of my fiance, I'm sorry to hear that. Tanks and the time and care, and so much easier, better quality for my fish and plants. I get it. I mean, and it takes that sometimes where you just got to go, okay, let's step back. Life just gave me an uppercut. I still want to stay in the hobby. What do I do? Do I leave the hobby? Or do I, and very, 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 very commendable, Freaky Fish Lady, that you rebounded and stayed in, because it certainly would have been a good excuse to say, forget it, I'm just going to collapse right now. But for so many people, having tanks helps them mentally and distracts them from some of the hard hits that life inevitably tends to deliver. Luke's Aquatics, let me see, into what? The saltwater nano tank? I'm thinking about a saltwater nano. Those all-in-one units, those are, they're sort of a turnkey tank. I kind of like those setups. Cichlid Kings, I enjoy watching my tanks more than watching TV. I like that. And boy, how much TV do you have to scroll through before you find something that is actually worth watching? And how many times do you have to start watching something to go, oh, this is just like that other program, same theme, Kind of hard to find good quality content these days. CC Custom Leather Works, never thinking about getting out of the hobby. That's great. And I'll admit, I will say that for like 2 seconds, after I had this is years ago, and I think I had a video called My Fish Are Dying, about with Colomaris. For 2 seconds, I thought, I'm done. And then I said, okay, I got to turn this into a learning experience. All right, I am cycling through. Any other questions or comments, please go ahead and hit me. And if I missed any super chats, I'm sorry. Let me back scroll here. I think I did get the super chats for the microphone fund and the haircut. Thank you for that. Okay, I'll get a haircut. I think I'll get a haircut. I'm just glad I have my hair at my age. Someone one time said that's a wig, right? You're wearing a wig. Yeah. All right. You go ahead and go with that. Now, see, this is something, what Sam Penny is saying, that's something you see, unfortunately. Fell out of the hobby because I lost some beautiful African cichlids. I spent months growing out because of a water change. My sister forgot to add prime, and it broke my heart. And I'm going to tell you a story, and I don't think that that James will mind me telling you this over at the Cichlid Shack. But he had like this 500-gallon tank, just a massive tank, right when you come into his shop. And he had some employees that he had trained up and were, and I think maybe even a family member was involved. And it was like Memorial Day weekend. It might have even been Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day, but it was, they came in on Friday and told James, we'll go ahead and service the 500-gallon, which was full of 8 to 12-inch African cichlids. Just a whole bunch of gorgeous cichlids. We'll service it, go home, relax, and we'll see you on Tuesday. The place was going to be shut down till Tuesday. You can leave African cichlids for 2 or 3 days. They'll get a little edgy, but they can go 2 or 3 days without eating without a problem. So they forget, after servicing the tank, cleaning it and everything else, they forget to turn the pumps back on. So guess what James found when he comes back to the shop on Tuesday morning? Opens the door, walks in, and looks to his beautiful show tank. What does he see? Just unbelievable number of fish belly up. He was devastated. I mean, devastated. And any rate, yeah, I'll tell you, this is why when I say mess less, right? For success, mess less. Part of what I'm eliminating with messing less is the probability or chance of making a mistake. You skipped that one water change that you were going to forget to condition the tank because you didn't do a water change that week because it wasn't really necessary. Your nitrates weren't that high. The fish were happy. That might have been the water change where you didn't temperature match or forgot to condition. So the less you mess, the less the probability of making a devastating or catastrophic mistake. Jeremy Moore, that is very good advice. And this is especially true if you have a tank that is under 9 months to a year old and isn't mature. You messing with too much, you are risking creating an ammonia spike, essentially starting a recycle of the tank. And ammonia is, of course, deadly, as is nitrite. And so by alternating, like I'll do one hang on back and then wait till next week, do the other hang on back on my 90, or I'll never do the sump and the canister on one of my larger tanks. It just doesn't happen. So that's very sage advice. Now, I think I missed a super chat. Where'd it go? I saw, there it is. Angelo. Hey, Angelo. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. I appreciate that super chat. It really helps. All right. Cichlid Kings, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea to go back and, I mean, especially if it's, let's say it's winter. Let's say it's winter and you unplug your heaters. Your heaters are high in the tanks when you do a water change. I keep my heaters very low. In some cases, I keep them horizontal. So I just leave them on during a water change. Or I don't do massive water changes. I also have heaters like the one in this tank is a Haiger 800 watt, I think, and it turns off. If the water line goes a certain level, it turns off, and the outside controller will flash a warning that you're too low on your water line. But yeah, if you unplug your heaters, unplug your pumps, do your water change, then get distracted, right? And you go off to dinner with your kids and family, and you come back 4 hours later and your fish are gasping at the top of the tank. A couple of them are dead. You know, yeah. Always when you're done, do a walk around. You know? So talking about walk around, you folks want to take a look at the fish? One of the reasons I'm at this angle today is I wanted to be able to give you a look at some of the fish. And let's go ahead and do a very quick live lap. This is different from the lap of the fish room that I'll publish during the week. Let's take a little lap of the fish room. I'm going to turn off some of the lights so you can see the tanks, and hold on here. All right, so we'll start here with the 300 gallon. And you can see everybody in there is rocking and rolling. The trout, for whatever reason, I haven't done a water change or anything, but the trout is getting a little bit fired up again. You'll start to see some dark coloration in the anal fin. The bottom half of the body will start to go a little bit dark. And he's building a pit behind the big rock on the left side of the tank there. So I'm going to have to bomb my tank again and break up that pit so that he doesn't go too crazy. But boy, he's just large and in charge. Let's swing over here and go around this light fixture. And not sure if you can see the betta tank. Let's see here. Yeah, you can see the little Dumbo up there, top center. A little pink and red, and has a little bit of blue in the body. Dumbo betta. Very, very cute. Did not look that good when I first got him. He's really blossomed in this split 29 gallon. By the way, I've got some gardeners outside. So if you hear some humming in the background, that's what you're hearing. The red betta is hiding. I can coax him out, though. There he is. There he is in all his glory. And we come over here, we go over to the live bears. Little 20-gallon rimless tank from my friends over at Glass Cages. This and all the larger tanks are from Glass Cages. These guys just doing great. It's a little bit of zucchini there that I'm hanging on the wall with a suction cup. Inside those little balls of Sprite, you've got fry that hide in there. And if you look among the fish, you'll see the smallest fish that you see were born in this tank. You see some there on the right side? Those are the ones that for whatever reason didn't get eaten. And then to the left of that, we've got the hospital tank or a quarantine tank. And there are the red-tail rasboras and the neons that are going to be coming over to the 55-gallon. And I'll probably be doing that today. So I'm going to swing back around so I don't wind up the cabling, the cords too much. And let's see if we can get a shot of the 210 from this angle. So there we have the 210-gallon. It looks a little bit light in the lighting, only because of the distance the camera is from the tank. Adjust it just a little bit. See them a little better there. You can see they're all thriving. Oscar's growing like a weed. That Vieja is just massive. The Salvini continues to be absolutely gorgeous and is actually behaving. I heard so many horror stories about Salvinis when I first set this up. The only real aggression I see in the tank on a somewhat relatively frequent level is the Nicaragua and the firemouth facing off. But otherwise, I don't really see that much aggression. All of these tanks are due for maintenance, and I'll be spending a lot of time doing that. We're going to get an odd view of the 90-gallon only because of the proximity of the camera. Let's first look at the planted tank. Move some of the lighting out of the way. That's the 55-gallon planted tank. Everything in there is thriving, and you can see that jungle of Sprite that I've added to it on the upper right-hand corner. And that Sprite, of course, is going to do a lot of things, including absorb more ammonia and nitrates, of course, right? First choice of plants is always ammonia, but they also will consume nitrates. But I'm loving what I'm seeing in that tank. And here's a little bit of an odd angle on the 90-gallon, only because of the where the camera is set up. But you can see the fish. Give an idea of the size of that geo. Compare them to my hand. Geo is just massive. All right, let me turn this around. For those of you who hang out long enough, you get yourself a tour of the fish room. I appreciate you folks hanging in there. And with that being said, let's see here. Any more questions you want me to take up before we go? Jeremy Moore, I ordered from the Cichlid Shack. Got a chocolate cichlid. Yeah, I got a couple chocolates back here in the 210. They're very cool fish. Some catfish, some denison barbs. Everything arrived alive and beautiful. My chocolate cichlid is so cute. Yeah, and they get cuter and cuter as they get older. They change patterns and color depending on their mood. They're just very, very cool fish, and I really like them a lot. And what did you think about the packing, the way that the Cichlid Shack packs their fish? I mean, it's unbelievable how they pack. Hold on. All right, that should be a little better. All right. Any other questions or comments? If not, we will go ahead and wrap this party up. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on Saturday. Hope you folks enjoy the rest of your weekend. Watch for some upcoming videos. Not sure what I'm going to do. We'll see. And there certainly will be another formal lap, and I'll show you the new lighting, the new air pump that I'm putting in, and the transferring of the fish from the 29 to the 55. And all that should be fun. And there you have it. Thank you so much to my wonderful moderators. Thank you to all of you who are subscribed. Thank you to my Patreon members. And thank you to the Cichlid Shack for all the help. And also thank you, of course, to the Aquarium Co-op for all of your help and backup. You folks are the best. I'll see you this coming Saturday. I think I'll be skipping a Saturday when I give the talk in Knoxville. There might not be a live stream that Saturday, unless I figure out a way to live stream from the talk so you folks can catch the talk as the live stream. But more on that later. So there you have it. Thank you, my friends, and I'll see you again next week.